What makes a Shen player great? This is the question that we plan to answer with this video. And when I say we, I mean myself and Shending Help. We have played Shen since his rework in 2016 and pushed the champion to its limits. This video encapsulates the concepts and ideas that we believe to be fundamental in becoming a great Shen player. This collection of Shen knowledge is split into 3 chapters. First, the fundamentals. Second, the laning phase. And third, stand united. I'm Petu, and this is The Art of Shen. Before we start, I need to thank Professor for sponsoring this video. I will now attempt to give an honest review of their application in 1 minute. The Professor app has lots of features like live statistics and in-game data. But after using the app for multiple games, I did not find most of these features to be of significant value to me. But the app allows you to hide all of the unwanted features and maintain only the good ones, of which there are 2, in my opinion. The jungle timers overlay simply shows the accurate numerical values of jungle timers on top of the minimap. In my opinion, this should just be a native feature in League, but it is not. And the second, actually useful overlay is the spells tracker. Using it is simple, like when an enemy uses a summoner spell, you just click on the icon and the overlay will automatically time the summoner spell. And if your teammates are using Professor, the timers will be synced up, so everyone has the same information. You can download Professor for free from my affiliate link in the description below. Greatness is achieved by mastering the fundamentals. In this chapter, I will introduce you to the core principles of Shen gameplay. Let us begin by discussing Shen's Q, Twilight Assault. Dragging the Spirit Blade through an enemy champion with Twilight Assault gives the following bonuses: increased maximum health damage on Q, increased attack speed as long as the Q stacks last, enemy champions hit by the blade are slowed when moving away from Shen, and key barrier's cooldown is reduced. This should be enough to convince you that the difference between a normal Q and an empowered Q is like night and day. Indeed, truly great Shen gameplay is characterized by the proper use of Twilight Assault, more so than any other factor. Shen's Q is the heart of his kit, as it pumps power into all aspects of his gameplay. In addition to being Shen's primary damage source, Twilight Assault provides powerful utility in combination with Shen's other basic abilities. In combination with the passive energy regen granted by Shadow Dash, Shen's Q acts as a reliable source for energy. As a matter of fact, you should always attempt to use up all Q stacks, prioritizing champions and then nearby minions or monsters, because each unused Q is lost energy. Twilight Assault also allows Shen to manipulate the position of the Spirit Blade, which facilitates the protection of allies with Spirit's Refuge. Deliberate and conscious Spirit Blade movement allows for extreme outplays with Shen's W. Remember that Spirit's Refuge blocks on-hit effects, such as Renekton's W stun or Nautilus's passive root. Look at my blade placement here. First I keep it on top of Twitch, block Nautilus passive with my W, then I move it with Q on top of myself, block Nautilus passive again, denying both roots, then we save Twitch with a taunt, and it's just destruction with deliberate blade placement. I mentioned earlier that Shen's passive cooldown is reduced if you drag the Spirit Blade through an enemy with Q. We will now take a deep dive into what is probably the most overlooked part of Shen's kit, namely Key Barrier. First, it is necessary to understand how Shen's passive actually works. After casting a spell, Shen gains a shield for 2.5 seconds. It is important to note that the shield activates after the triggering ability's effect is finished. So with Q, when the Spirit Blade reaches Shen, with W, when the protective zone disappears, with E, when you finish dashing, and with R, when you complete the teleport. Spells that successfully affect an allied or enemy champion reduce this cooldown. But what does it mean to affect a champion with one of your spells? For your Q, it means dragging the blade through an enemy. For your W, it means an ally, not including yourself, being in the protective zone. For your E, it means hitting at least one champion with the ability. And for your ultimate, it means completing the channel and teleporting to your ally. I have a fantastic clip here showcasing the power of key barrier. So we ult onto Echo, Echo ults back, we flash E onto the Darius, get the kill, but now we're in a world of trouble. How do we live? We kite, we go, we run, we wait for passive shield to come back up, we use Q, activate it, get out with E, okay? Somehow we lived that. Let's take a look at it in slow motion. So, our Q is now up. We could use it, but we decide not to, because we want to get the passive shield with Q. We run away from Elise Spiderling, we dodge Viego ultimate with movement, we get the passive shield, kill Viego, then use another Q auto attack to regain enough energy to cast E to get away. And then we're alive. How great was that? That's Shen gameplay right there. Powerful stuff. There are two fundamental Shen mechanics that you need to know about in order to play him to his full potential. The first one is the E flash, and the second one is the Q flash. We will start with the E flash. To do the E flash, proceed as follows. Cast E at the maximum range, because you can cast it like at a short range, also at a long range, okay? Cast it at a long range. This gives you more time to perform the taunt flash. You taunt towards a target, and then you flash on top of another target. Or alternatively, you taunt towards a target from out of range and flash on top. Okay, it's pretty simple, guys. You just E and then flash. But this is really important, the fact, because if I cast E like this, right, and then flash, okay, I'm just too good, so it works. But if I cast it like this, and then flash, you won't get the taunt. So try to remember to cast E at a max range. So I always keep my cursor like way over here, for example. So I cast like this, and then I can flash on this guy, okay? Once you know that, it will be really easy. Then you can do stuff like this, okay? You can do like boom, triple taunt, then you can do like backwards taunt, all this kind of stuff, okay? That's E flash. So the second mechanic is Q flash, and this is really important. This is so nice for Shen. This guarantees the empowerment on the Q. So normally if you would like to get a Q empowerment here on the target dummy, you would maybe flash towards him and then Q, something like this, okay? That's the noob way to do it. The proper way to do it is cast Q already and then flash on top of him. This will be faster and it will be more difficult for the opponent to react to. And if you time it correctly, which I will attempt to do here, you can make the blade like teleport on top of you, okay? So I will pull Q and then because the blade will always follow your path, right? So if you get it at the right time, like at the very last second, then the blade will kind of teleport on top and I got the empowered auto attacks. So this will be used when you're chasing opponents, it will be used to engage because you get the slow. Sometimes instead of E-ing, what you can do is you just Q flash on top of a target and then E afterwards when they're slowed. Having studied the fundamentals, we can now move on to more advanced Shen concepts. For the next chapter, Shending Help will be your sensei. He's the only person who I trust more than myself to teach you the secrets of the laning phase. So, without further ado, it's time for chapter 2.
Alright, in this chapter I'm gonna talk a bit about laning. I'm in this clip gonna go over 4 core concepts with you guys, and the first one is blade placement, specifically for melee matchups. Second, I'm gonna talk about slow pushing, which can be relevant for both melee matchups and some range matchups. I'm gonna talk about the exceptions later on in this chapter. And then third, I'm gonna talk about the level 2 all-in and why it's important and how to pull it off properly. And fourth, I'm gonna end up talking a little bit about the first reset of the game. Alright, so when the lane starts, the first thing you want to do is walk into lane and place our blade. And the reason we do that is so that when the enemy eventually walks up to hit our minions or last hit minions, we're gonna be able to stand on our minions and be able to get a free drag through them. Compared to if our blade was behind us, we would have to walk all the way behind the enemy in order to get the drag through. And I'd say that in the middle of the casters and melees is the first place I would call a good blade placement. On the casters is also a good blade placement, or even a little bit further back is fine too. But you don't want to place it on top or slightly behind the melees, because then it can be a little bit hard to get the right angle. So make sure it's really up there in the lane. And once, when you place your blade, if let's say Illaoi was standing here in our face trying to punish us for this, what we don't want to do is get dragged into a like fist fight with her with just our normal Qs. We can attack her once maybe, but after that we need to go backwards and just wait for our CDs. We never want to go in for like any kind of longer trade with just our normal Qs. It's our MQs that makes Shen such an early game monster, so that's what we're gonna play around. Placing blade and using the well-placed blade to get drag-throughs. Alright. So once we get our blade placed, I'm just last hitting right now, waiting for CDs, right? We don't want to go for a trade before our passive is up as well. And now our passive MQ is up, and she's walking up for this CS. So what I'm doing is making sure that I'm in melee range before I press this drag through. So a lot of Shen players will stand a little bit too far back, right? And when they press the drag through, sure they hit the drag through and it slows as well, but they will have to walk and chase after the enemy, so they only get 1 or max 2 MQs off. So what you want to make sure is you're standing in the right place in melee range before you even press the drag through. And now we can press it, and then we attack 1, 2, 3 times, and then we walk back and drop the aggro. And what you have to note here is that not only did we win a trade, but since we're not letting Illaoi go close to our wave and hit it at all, and also we're taking more minion aggro than she does, the slow push happens automatically. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about slow pushing. So what happens if you hard shove, alright? If we hard push, then the enemy can just notice that, and then they sit back, get XP, and they aren't forced to walk up, and very soon they'll be able to farm safely under tower and scale, and we won't get max value out of our strong early game. But why is it bad to get pushed in? Why is it bad if the enemy pushes us in? Well, it's bad because then they will get the level 2 first and level 3 first, and they will have the level advantage throughout the whole early game. And even if you're supposed to be a strong laner, you're not gonna be able to win with a level disadvantage. And even if you find a couple of like goodish trades, as soon as the enemy levels up, the situation has changed. So we never wanna get pushed in unless we can help it. So every time we can get the push, we do so, but we do so with a small margin, because we don't want to let the enemy just sit back and farm on the tower. We want to have it slow pushing, so we get level 2 and 3 first, but also we don't want to crash into the tower too quickly, because we want to build our advantage during this window. Alright, so we don't actually need to be hitting the minions a lot, we just need to stop the enemy from getting free reign over our minions. That's the TLDR here. So right now we have gotten a good trade, and what's the reason I'm not walking up right now to place the blade? So that's what you normally want to do. If you have Q up and your blade is in a bad spot like it is here, you generally want to walk up and just fix it to have a good blade placement again. But the reason I'm not doing that right now is because of how close I am to level 2. And when you're closing in on level 2, like I am here, you want to have every ability up, and then right before you see this minion that's gonna give us level 2 is about to die, you wanna put yourself in range to taunt while you're still level 1. Because that makes it so that the Illaoi won't see you hit level 2 and run away. But they will see just a level 1 Shen, and most of the time they will not respect you enough. And then you just run close, like sprint close, right when you're about to hit level 2. And even if she right now realizes what you're trying to do, it's too late. The distance between you and the Illaoi here is too little. Even if she sprints away right now, you're always gonna hit the taunt. So in order to get this, you will need to sacrifice 1 or 2 minions of gold in order to do this. But it's very, very, very worth it. We care about the XP the most and getting good trades, so we can force her back or get a solo kill. it's XP that we can never allow ourselves to lose. So I put myself close, I get level 2, I taunt in, boom, 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 and she's lost a lot of her HP, right? So what now? It's already like pushing pretty hard, so I don't want to hit the minions more than I have to here. And I'm gonna try when I get closer to level 3 here to see if I can walk close to her and see if I can get the taunt off. I can't quite get it, and I actually lose a couple of minions looking for it, but if I managed to find it, it would be worth so much. So it's always worth losing a couple of minions if you can have a good chance of getting a good trade-off. And then she's just sitting super far back, so then I'm last hitting, and then I'm gonna ward because it's closing in on level or minute 3 here. And here is an important moment. So Ilaoi was respecting me a lot half a minute ago here, right? She didn't want to get into range. But right now, she feels safe under her tower. She's in tower range, right? And she feels, oh, he can't taunt me here. But yes, you can. You're level 3 to her level 2, which means better stats and extra ability. And you have the better wave. You have the bigger wave. So even if you take a tower shot for this, or even 2, it can still be good. Because if we take him very low here, then we're gonna set up for a good dive. So we end up getting all 3 Qs. We end up only taking 1 tower shot for it actually. It's very good for us. And then we just wait for our taunt to be up. And then we're gonna just dive him with Ignite and flash out. So that's our plan. I'm waiting for a good moment because I know she's gonna go for this last hit, right? And then I just throw out the taunt. And I kill her, we flash out. So lastly, I just want to mention this. So why am I recalling here? It's because I'm saying these minions are all inside the tower range completely. This means the wave has fully crashed, right? If it was the same situation with you having 4 minions and the enemy 2, but they were instead here, what would I have to do? Well, I would definitely have to walk up and kill these 2 minions then. Because I need my minions to fully crash into tower so they don't struggle like around here, and then the next enemy wave comes in and they're still here. Then we're gonna lose so much minions and XP while we're recalling and walking back to lane. So you really need to make sure that after you kill an enemy or force them to take a recall or something like that, then that's just the first part of our goal. Our second part is to actually get this crash and then we reset. Otherwise you can end up like even in XP or something if you take a really bad recall. So yeah, that's what you have to think about with regards to that. And then we just, after we take our recall, we always buy ruby crystals, preferably 2 if you can afford it, right? Shen is really good with HP early. And then when we walk back into lane, it will naturally slow push back into us. The enemy will have a bigger wave, and then we will look to trade well and then set up a freeze. I have a couple of clips coming up here that I'm gonna show exactly how you do that. So now we're gonna jump into a clip that makes a good example of how to freeze from this ahead situation that we talked about in the last clip, where I have killed the Garen here. I got the full crash that we mentioned, so it's gonna push back towards me. The enemy wave is gonna be bigger than ours, naturally, when we get into lane, which is what we want it to be. And then the first thing we're looking to do is trade onto him. So I'm actually taunting in here. I don't generally recommend you to taunt in first when we're same levels. But in this scenario, we are ahead a lot in items, right? We have 2 ruby crystals. He doesn't have anything except for a Doran shield. Because we got that initial solo kill and a good crash. So we are strong enough that we can just freely taunt onto the enemy, trade. We don't have to be scared about his trade back, and we don't have to be scared about the enemy wave because we have our W to deny that, right? So I'm just trying to trade as soon as possible. Then I walk away, and every time he's trying to walk up to like hit our wave in order to get this crash, we're trying to stop him. We attack him a bunch of times. I have a leftover key here that I'm looking to attack on the Garen rather than on the minions. Because remember, like, the important thing here is, sure, your end goal is to thin this wave and stop it from crashing into your tower. But what you have to remember is that the biggest thing that's gonna make it crash into your tower is if the enemy has access to hitting your wave. It's gonna actually take a while for the enemy wave to kill yours naturally if Garen doesn't get to attack. So if we get the enemy low like this, then we can basically threaten a kill anytime he's gonna walk up to hit this or push this in. And then when he's forced off the wave or forced to recall, then we can focus on thinning the wave, right? So it's really important to get the order right here. So we're focusing on trading onto him and taking him maybe lower. Great, we didn't kill him, but we don't need to. We just want to keep him out of XP range and keep him from hitting our wave. And now we know he's recalling, and now we can start thinning it out, right? Because it's a very big wave. So if we have the control to do what we want with a wave, and we're trying to freeze, then we're generally gonna try to keep it like 4 to 6 minions more than your wave. Somewhere around there. 3 is too little, and 7 or above is too many. If you got to choose. And here I also apply something which I call a half crash. So I want some of these minions to die, right? Because I'm trying to make it between 4 to 6 or something more than my minions. But I don't want every minion to go into my tower, because then they're all gonna die, and then it's gonna push towards him, and he's gonna be able to farm again. I don't want that. So I let some of these minions crash, the cannon and a couple of melees, and then I'm gonna keep the rest of them out of tower, and then drag them away like you see here. I drag them away from my tower. And then he comes back into lane, and remember, our goal is for him not to be able to force this crash, but we don't thin first, we trade first. We force him out of lane, and then we can control the wave freely. So I'm looking to taunt in here. The first thing I do, I take him to like half HP, great, and now we just wait for CDs again, and anytime he's gonna walk up to hit one of these minions, we're gonna stop him. And now, since he's half HP, I even see an opportunity to force him out of XP range, once again. So he's out of XP range, I'm in XP range. So I'm gonna actually probably get level 6 here before he even gets level 5. And then we can just keep punishing this guy. And we can keep doing that until we're like level 7 and he's level 4 even in some games. So this is what you're aiming for. So I'm gonna show you one more clip here of freezing. Just to get it into your brains, like what's gonna be consistent here. Well, we're ahead a lot of items, we're ahead in XP, it's pushing into us, right? Because we got the crash before we backed. And now the first thing we wanna do is to just taunt into him and trade. Even if he has the bigger wave, we have our W to deny that, and we have a big item advantage, right? And we have a level advantage. So we don't care about these minions. Even if we take 2-3 volleys of them, it won't matter compared to like what we can deal in damage to him. So just taunt in, trade, great, and then we wait for CDs again. And now if he walks up and like tries to push this, we're gonna try to stop him. And even if I have Bamis here, I'm not scared of like losing my freeze. As long as we keep track of the fact that we have Bamis and don't walk close to the minions too much if they're about to be too few, then you can freeze just fine with Bamis. And here I make sure that I have the aggro of these minions when all of my minions die before I walk up. Because I was scared that these would sprint into tower and most of them would die to tower before my minion wave came out to stop them. So I made sure, let's show it again real quick. So I see that my minion wave is about to die, right? And instead of walking up right now and make sure that this dies, all these focus onto me, now I can run up to be aggressive, because now they're gonna chase me for a little bit, and then I know that my wave that I see on the minimap here, this, is gonna come in time to stop this from getting into your tower, which would break the freeze. Alright, so now I'm just walking up, like taunting if I can here, great, taking another good trade, and when he's low, now I'm gonna try to zone him off XP, right? Anytime he's gonna go close to us, we're just gonna kill him. And if he recalls, he's gonna lose this full wave and maybe some of the next one as well. So I'm just chilling here. I'm just zoning off, like, no, you're not allowed to get XP. He's trying to get into XP range. He's not even trying to CS, he's trying to get XP, but I'm like, no. And here I make the decision that I think this new wave is gonna come and like stop this from crashing. But if you're not sure if that's the case, then you can just walk back, draw the aggro for a second, and then play more aggressive again. So don't taunt in or like do aggressive things like I did there if you're not sure if this will crash when you do it. But yeah. And then I go back to Lost It a little bit, and now I have my taunt about to come up again. I press the drag through. I don't want to let him kill my minions, and then I'm just gonna go for the kill here. I didn't have to go for the kill, but I saw an opportunity, so I just did it. But it would be the same thing if I just sat around, kept him from getting XP. I would have gotten level 6, it would have been 4 either way. Like the kill isn't the core thing here. It's keeping him from XP and make sure that he loses wave after wave after wave here. He's lost so extremely much. And even after he dies, I don't push this in, because Shen has really poor wave clear. If I was playing a Garen or Darius or something and I had an ability that can wave clear really well, then maybe I just wave clear and hope that a lot of it will die before he gets back to lane. But I know that it would take me a while to kill these minions, right? So it's better to just let it sit here and make a lot of my blue minions die before he gets there, and he loses the maximum amount. Since there wasn't an example of this particular trade in the Illaoi clip, I want to show you something real quick. And that's what to do when you have leftover empowered Qs over from a trade. So here we go for the trade we talked about earlier, where I sit on the minion that's about to die here, that I know he wants to lost it. And then I'm gonna press Q when I'm in range to start auto-attacking him right away. So that's what I do here. We auto-attack him once, twice, but he ends up getting out of range. I don't think I can get the third auto-attack, so I end up dropping the aggro, right? I walk away, and instead of attacking a minion with that lost empowered Q that I have right now, I look at my Q CD down here. It's 3 seconds off. So instead of blowing the lost empowered Q on the minion or taunting in right away, I just wait. I just wait, right? Until my Q is up again. And then by the time my Q is up right now, I taunt in, attack him with that leftover Q, and then I can press Q again right away. And I get 4 MQs in a row after what was already a good initial trade. So keep your eyes open to use empowered Qs on the enemy champ if the situation allows for it. I have one more example of a similar situation. So here I end up getting only 1 MQ off, and because I see that my Q is very far from being up right now, it's still a quite long CD because I'm level 2 compared to the earlier clip. So I end up blowing 1 of them on the minion, because I know I'm not gonna have time to wait for Q to be up and get off both and 5 in a row. So I blow 1 on a minion right there, but I don't use the second one. I save that until my Q is almost up, and then I taunt in, boom, and then I instantly can use the drag through again, and now I have 3 MQs ready in case Riven wants to try to stand her ground and fight me. So she's forced to dash away and flash, right? So really try to not use your MQs that are left over from an earlier trade on minions right away. Try to see if you can get them onto an enemy champion, whether it's taunting in like in these 2 clips, or just using your extra range to hit him while he's last hitting. Because leftover Qs is what gets that extra value. When you're already winning stuff, it can make the enemy even lower to get them into kill range. So keep that in mind. So I also want to include a quick clip about ranged matchups. Specifically ranged matchups where they have really strong auto attacks like Lucian, Vayne, Quinn, champs like this. You won't be able to fight for the push in these kinds of matchups, because even if it seems like you're getting the push initially, you will have to take too much damage for it so that they can just keep auto-attacking you, and then suddenly you can't touch their wave and they will just push you in anyway. So there's no point in even really trying versus these kinds of champs. So instead you should focus on getting all experience, so keep yourself in experience range when an enemy minion dies, and also keep your HP up so that when you hit level 3 and stuff like this, then you can try to punish the enemy if they overstep or make a mistake. but it all has to do with how you play the level 1 and 2. So here I'm just focusing on staying outside, like I'm not walking up for minions here, I'm letting them die, because I know I'm gonna take too much damage if I walk up and try to take them. And I walk up a little bit there just to catch the XP. And yeah, that's basically my mindset. So I'm just trying to minimize the damage I take here, get as much XP as I can, let it push into me. And remember, like, when there's no minions dying, you don't have to be close at all. Like literally here, I'm standing under my tower because I know there's no minion in the middle of dying. So I don't have to stand here just to like test him or something like that. I can just stand literally under my tower because there's no minion dying, so there's no XP to be missed. And then when I eventually hit level 2 here, I end up taking my W because I know he's closing in on level 3. I'm not gonna take taunt and taunt in here. I'm gonna lose either way even if I hit it. So I just take W to deny some damage. And then I stay away. I don't take more damage than I have to. So I can stay pretty close to full by the time I hit level 3. And then I can start to at least look for taunts if he overextends, or if I think I can get a taunt at the tower. So I don't taunt right away right here because he's sitting ready with his E key to be pressed, right? But here I end up taunting because I haven't taunted for a while, so he's maybe relaxed a little bit, and I think he's gonna greed for this last minion, right? So I just taunt before I think he's gonna, while I think he's clicking on it, I just taunt him. So he ends up taking a tower shot, and here's something you can do versus both ranged matchups and melee matchups, which is if they walk into a bush and it's seemingly a good recall timing for them, they want to recall with lowish HP, then instead of just chasing them instantly, you just last hit normally for like 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then walk in there after timing in your head so you can still interrupt the recall, but you don't do it right away. You want them to recall and waste a little bit of time first. And then I do the same thing here. I just hit minions for a while, and then I walk into here, and he was probably almost done with his recall, but he was forced to interrupt it, right? So since he stayed and greeted, I just go for the flash here and ignite him and go for the kill. And all this, it's because of how I played the level 1 and 2. If I played to get more CS, sure, I might be 18 or even 20 CS right here instead of 14, but I would have never been able to stay in lane or like do anything aggressive. Because if you're like 50 or 40% HP when the enemy is still full, then it doesn't matter if they take a tower shot. It doesn't matter if you land your taunt. Enemy will still win either way. That's why you have to be so conservative with your HP early, so that you can actually be a laner like level 3, 4, 5 and look to punish enemy mistakes if they happen.
Welcome to the final chapter in the art of Shen. We will now study ultimate usage and team fighting by analyzing 2 team play sequences from my own games. Here's kind of the situation that we're dealing with. We had a laning phase versus Anivia, where it didn't go so well, so Anivia is far ahead in top lane, but we have a couple of strong members in LeBlanc and Viego, and now the game is looking to be in our advantage, and it's 14 minutes into the game. Any questions from Shending at this point? This is kind of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, the first step of playing the mid game is gonna be a lot of pressing tab to both keep track of like what items people have, what shutdowns exist, and what kind of like main threats there are in the game. The things I see here that's especially notable is that we're against a Nocturne, right? And we don't have QSS, so we can't get out of the darkness. So if we're gonna be in side lane, we're gonna have to press R very early before the Nocturne makes us unable to R. But yeah, the general things is usually who's strong in your team, who has to engage, and what are the shutdowns we need to protect here.
Yeah, so the shutdown that we're looking to protect right now is on LeBlanc, and I think in general LeBlanc is a very good target for our ultimates because she has great mobility. So she can provide kind of that engage. And as you can see here, the first ultimate that we do is straight onto or LeBlanc, and then we kill Anivia, which I think was a fine kind of aggressive play to make.
Yeah, it's usually the more ahead you are in the game, the less you want to make those kinds of plays, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because if you are very, very, very ahead, so your team is crushing, then all you have to do is to deny the enemy's comeback potential. And if you do these kind of aggressive plays to like kill this Olivia, sure, it makes you win a little bit quicker, but now the enemy team has a potential to maybe pick up one of your important shutdowns while it's down. While in the more even kind of games, this would be a edge case where I think it's fine to do your R here, especially since they have a Nocturne that can deny your R, so it's a bit of a special case in that regard too. But so that's the general thing to think about. The more behind you are, the more loose you can be with your R usage, I think.
Okay, I'll highlight something here that is not doesn't have to do directly with ultimate, but I see that Viego is fighting Irelia in the jungle, and I move towards him, but I completely fail my W here, because Shen's W is such an important ability in skirmishes and in teamfights, and in this case, as you can see, I kind of press QW and drag my W towards my location here, but Viego has already flashed away over here, and now we're not really protecting him. Luckily it turns out great, and we managed to just get the kill without Viego dying, but that could have been bad, and then Viego could have died there, and that would have been also a situation where ultimate would have been beneficial if I didn't use it earlier.
Sure, yeah. I will say one thing though, is that you did have the right idea in mind. In those kinds of situations, we want to walk up and look to QW before we E, every time it's possible. Because once you use your E, you don't have any way to reposition yourself anymore to get your W into a good spot. So it's always better to look to get a perfect W usage without having to E, and then the E is very good at adapting to every situation that can occur from there. So we do want to save the E like Petu was trying to there, even if he did fail in another way this time.
So right here, what I'm doing is I'm kind of baiting the opposition to go in, and I feel like I'll do this a lot where I will just kite backwards. And then here, I think my W usage is like completely fine, right? What is your opinion if we go back a little bit? Like in this situation, there's two heavy auto-attackers that are going on my back line or like front line.
It's good.
Yeah, here W is granting a lot of value. And we can also look that our ultimate will be coming up in 15 seconds. So if we're low HP, we can look for a back in this position and then ult back into the fight. What do you think about that? Because I feel like I do that a lot in some situations where I'm low HP, then I will recall and then ult back into the fight.
Yeah, that's for sure a good thing. I always try to time my recalls to when my R is coming up. So if it's coming up in like 30 seconds and I have a decision if to stay for a wave or not, then I usually want to do that, right? Because then my R is going to be up when I go back into base, and then I don't have to slowly walk back on the map and then R, instead of just R back on the map, gain tempo, gain things from my team.
Yeah. And one thing that I do like to mention here is that every moment you're spending in the shop while your teammates are fighting is a possibility that you miss an ultimate opportunity. So if you can get your shopping done fast and you know what you want to buy, then this will be really helpful. Because in some situations, or like so many times I have missed an ultimate because I'm shopping, and probably Shending, you have kind of a method where you don't necessarily even shop, like sometimes you will just ultimate instantly, right?
Yeah, like the first priority should always be to be looking at the fight, and then if you see something, you can press R and then quickly open the shop and buy the last thing sometimes. And so occasionally I even fail to do that, like Petu mentions. But yeah, the most important thing is always to protect the shutdowns and make sure the fight is winning. Your item is not going to be game changing here. Even if it feels bad to like miss a shop, it feels much worse to like lose the game because you were in the shop.
Yeah. In this part, I would like to highlight how patient I was with the ultimate. Because I feel like it would be very common for a newer Shen player to have ulted already in that situation. Instead, we managed to turn this around. So if we just go back that maybe like whole 20-second sequence, now we have ultimate up. And let's see how long I wait. It's 18 minutes and 1 second. So we're just looking for the situation. We know that there are enemies here. Our team is posturing up. We want to be fighting this. But I just kind of keep an eye on everyone and see when the perfect opportunity is. What do you, Shending, think about this? Would you have ulted already?
If Seraphine had a big shutdown, then yes. But if she doesn't, then I think no. I think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I believe Seraphine does not have a shutdown here. I cannot tab, unfortunately, find out. But okay, we might have seen it there. But
Yeah, I think it's just the LeBlanc, but yeah.
And this is
sure.
kind of
And
already a game-ending play in this position because we completely kind of roll them for the past 1 minute or something.
Yep.
Any thoughts right here as to maybe giving some tips for being more patient with your ultimate or choosing targets in general?
Yeah, I want to emphasize what I talked about earlier again. So how the general kill score and how you feel like the general gold situation is should influence things a lot. So it's not only the shutdowns, but it's like you look at the kills. It's 29 and or 21 and 9 right now.
Yeah.
And if we had R, we would just like sit with our team a lot and probably not use it, right?
Yeah.
We would probably only use it when they're about to collect a shutdown on Sona or LeBlanc in this case. Or maybe Viego in some fights, but just basically deny enemy win con. As for other tips for choosing targets, so there are two main ways of using your R, right? Either it's the reactive way to like save someone,
Yeah.
or it's the proactive to engage.
Yeah. And what you're basically saying is that in a situation where you're far ahead, you want to be doing reactive plays, and when you're behind, you want to be doing proactive plays.
Yes, that's pretty much what I'm saying. And another thing that I see a lot of people complaining about, right, is when, let's say, you are a Vayne who's getting ganked, and she's very like slow at turning around, and you're like, oh, why are you running away? Why are you flashing away? That's gonna happen, right? Because when you go for these reactive arts to save someone, in their head, your teammate has a plan of like, I'm gonna run here, I'm gonna dodge here, then I'm gonna flash this spell. They're not mentally ready for this Shen R. No matter what elo you're playing in, it's gonna take a bit of time to like react to it. So if you're doing a reactive R and you expect to like get a kill from it, then you have to make sure that the enemies have truly committed into a play. And even if there's a like 1 or a half 1 second delay on your teammate turning around, the enemy is too committed to ever get out. So that's the way I have to think about things. You can't expect them to instantly turn around. But if you're going for proactive plays to like go with a Hecarim into their backline, then he's already going in, right? So he's not gonna turn around and run away when you are. That's not gonna happen in any elo, except very, very specific situations. But in general, expect that the person you're Ring to is gonna keep running away if they're already running away, and if they're going in, they're gonna keep going in. It's a very standard thing, right? But people forget a bit about it. So really try to remember that your R won't change their play or mindset instantly.
Yeah. So I'm jumping into the second replay that we will be reviewing, and the situation that we have here is a completely dead even game. I believe the kills are completely even, like we see 11-11. My laning phase didn't go the best, and I have gone for an extremely supportive build, so I have not even gone for Bummies at all, and I went directly for a Locket in this game. So let's see how this one plays out. And what I do like to mention from the previous discussion about choosing the people you want to ultimate, a kind of mental algorithm that I have for myself is that if a person plays well when I ult them, I will continue to ult them, usually. And this kind of goes hand in hand with protecting shutdowns, because if someone is doing well, you want to be ulting onto that target because he can play better with you, but also because you can protect the shutdown. But if someone completely misplays, I will be more hesitant to ult onto that target.
I think I partly agree with that.
Okay.
So it depends a lot on the situation. If we're in a situation where like, let's say a Kog'Maw is literally just auto-attacking them, and if he's gonna live for a little bit longer, he's always gonna kill them, then I would R a bad Kog'Maw as well, probably. You know?
Yeah, makes sense.
But if it's a like close fight and Yone has to dodge a bunch of stuff and play properly, then I'm gonna be reliant on how he's played before.
Okay,
so
I would like to revise my statement because I feel like what I said is more applicable to proactive ultimates. Because reactive ultimates are like situations that present themselves, and then I'm not necessarily evaluating the player skill level at all. All I'm doing is kind of seeing whether I should ult in this given situation. But then when I'm looking for proactive plays, I like to work with the teammates that I know are doing well.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So this was kind of a mixed and very long team fight, and now we got the dragon, but the opponents still have a tower lead. And for our kind of teammate analysis, we see that Cassiopeia is playing extremely well here, gets a fantastic solo kill onto the Rengar, and she also has a 600 gold shutdown, so this is definitely something that we will be attempting to protect as the game goes on. We also have a Fed Vayne with 400 gold shutdown, so if we just think about what Shending Help said earlier, we want to be protecting these carries, and not necessarily ulting on the 1 and 4 Lee Sin or the Nami, which I did in the last fight.
Yeah. It's basically cruising from here, right? You need to make sure that your team is not throwing, and you need to be pinging actively and trying to evaluate how many people are here from both sides.
Yeah.
Because especially low elo, but it happens in high elo as well, like every fight tends to be decided of who has more people. It's literally that simple. Like there's very few 5v5s or 4v4s that happens. It's usually a 4v3, a 5v4, and all you have to do is make sure that your team is getting spam pinged back every time they're going close to a situation that might be like man disadvantage, while you spam ping on my way, look to aggressively R, look to like flank, look to catch the enemy off guard while there are less people. Because even if some of your teams misplays or you misplay, or the enemies plays well, like man advantage usually outvalues everything. It's very, very like uncommon to lose a 4v5 or 5v4 if the enemies don't get a wombo combo or something.
Yeah.
So mid game, late game, it's about keeping track of your shutdowns, Ring when it's actually necessary, and making sure that you take man advantage fights and ping a lot, and keep track of where your team is. So for example, one example would be earlier when the Cassiopeia did the outplay, right? And didn't die in bot lane. Petu could have seen that, oh, this guy is playing way too aggressive right here. I'm just gonna sit behind her, make sure that she recalls properly, and then I'm gonna go back on the map again.
Yeah.
So that, like, sure, it was Cassiopeia that took a risk, but we could have prevented that.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to highlight the last kind of extended team fight that we had over here, because I feel like this is something that newer Shen players struggle with, because they don't necessarily see the opportunities that they have to affect these team fights. Because the opponents have Rengar, they have Kha'Zix with a Yuumi, right? They're very assassin heavy. So if you just look at my positioning, I'm not attempting to do any damage. I'm literally sitting on top of the Vayne right here. And like any more experienced Shen player notices what I'm doing, I'm just preparing for a QW, because I want to be denying the Rengar from killing the Vayne here. And I press QW to block some damage from the Kai'Sa. The Rengar jumps. Vayne gets a condemn onto the Rengar. But this is actually an interaction that I'm not sure about, because I think the Rengar auto attack still goes through if you condemn him or like stun him mid-air. So I think my W blocks the Rengar auto attack there, but I'm not necessarily sure.
Yeah, it's not really key anyway to the lesson. The lesson is still correct either way, in that in these situations we want to make sure that we stand on the right place and we use QW before we use E. Yeah. Because our E is the most adaptable thing in our kit, basically. It's going to be useful, it's going to reposition us, which is very key, and then we save the CC part for when it's actually the most useful. Yeah. While the W is super reliant on the situation, and there's so many cases where if you E early, your W is going to be useless, like 80% or 90% of these chaotic team fights. In lane, it's a different thing, potentially. Yeah. But in late game, like, you want to get your W value as soon as you see a valuable opportunity for it, and then the E and R is going to be very adaptable.
Yeah, and speaking of being in the right position, even though I'm not even using any ability in my kit, I'm just being a meat shield here. I'm standing in the right position because I'm blocking the Kha'Zix W from hitting Cassiopeia potentially. Probably she could have sidestepped it, but my whole thought process is here, like, how do I do everything in my power to keep Cassiopeia alive, right? So that's what I'm doing. I still have E to get out for myself, and I don't even like mind dying if I keep Cassiopeia alive, because the kill onto Cassiopeia is worth 3 kills, and I'm only worth 1.
Yep. The right mindset for sure.
What do you think about using ultimate like in combat? If you have already grouped up with your team and then you have a team fight, then what are your kind of thoughts on when you should use a combat ultimate or like a mid-fight ultimate?
Yeah, so we want to use it last. So I talked about saving E for after W, and
Yeah.
in the same way we save R for after E and when it's really needed, when the guy is right about to die. So we're looking to walk up to the guy we're trying to peel, we press QW, get value from the W, and then as the situation escalates, we press E when it's necessary, and then we see what happens, and if someone is still about to die, then we press R, because we're out of spells, we're out of stuff to use. So now the best thing we can do is press R. But you don't want to just press R the first thing you do.
Yeah.
Because then you're stuck in place. The enemy can adapt to this. They know when you're gonna arrive and what's gonna happen. They can CC you, and even if they don't do that, you won't necessarily get a good W or a good E afterwards. So if you're in the fight, we pretty much never want to R first.
Yeah, and in a game like this, where I'm not very strong, like personally, I have gone for only support items. What I kind of advise you not to do is to go for those flashy taunt plays, like going for a taunt flash onto the backline. Because if you look at our comp, like, yeah, Lee Sin can maybe follow up, but Lee Sin is not strong either. So if I E-flash onto the enemies, like, who's gonna follow up? I'm usually just gonna be one shot, and I'm not gonna do anything in that fight.
Yep.
Right here, I'm just being patient with my ultimate again, because from my point of view, if I ult right now, the Kaisa and Rengar will take probably 2 Nexus turrets, because we have no one else that can recall fast and defend the base. So I'm being more hesitant with using my ultimate here. Do you think that is the right choice?
Yeah, for sure. And no one is dying yet, so there hasn't been a situation where we really have to use it yet.
Yeah. Often I feel like it is kind of difficult to choose what to do in these base race situations, and I see that a lot from lower elo players, that they kind of necessarily don't really know what's going on, and when someone is taking an inhibitor, they start to panic. And right there, maybe someone could have done a play that they kind of engage onto the mid lane because they think we need to protect that inhibitor at all costs, when in fact you just need to make sure that you don't lose the actual game. You can trade the Drake for the inhibitor and just relax and realize that you don't need to make any hero plays yet.
Yeah. In these like late game situations, like you're not a great split pusher, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a mid laner with TP, for example, then it can be the best way to send them to the side lane to wave clear and like deal with the split pusher, and then you can R to them if it's necessary in the 1v1. And otherwise, they can maybe TP to the fight. Here,
Yeah.
Cassio doesn't have TP, but you can try to ping for that if there's a scenario like that.
Yeah. And we notice a fight breaks out. We've been looking at top lane the entire time. We have our ultimate ready, and now it's just a matter of performing. In this situation, what strikes out for you as a potential ult target?
Yeah, Lee Sin.
Yeah.
For me, I don't. They have already used a lot of their burst, right? And we have a high value in terms of the shield, and he also has mobility to like not die during RR. So
this is overall
if
something.
Cassio was lower there, maybe it's Cassio, but she was still full HP.
Yeah, I do agree, and we have to note that Cassio also has a Gargoyle Stone Plate, so if she's at full HP, she's not dying in 1 second. So saving Lee Sin there, arriving to the fight, is definitely the right choice to make. And this is a like complete turnaround play that we make here, and this is why Shen is such a strong champion, because we didn't necessarily have to do anything mechanically difficult, but that play could have been completely different if we didn't have the man advantage that Shending Help talked about earlier. Just having that one extra person on your team allows you to kind of win these fights by default in some sense.
Yeah, and that now is also an important period of time, right? In these kind of scenarios where you win a big fight, your teammates would usually get very overconfident. Like Cassiopeia almost died in bot lane right there.
Yeah.
During these time frames, after the fight is done, you should be trying to make your whole team reset, right? Get items, make sure they're all full HP, and then spam ping them if they ever go up alone, and try to be with them. So it's very, very common to throw after a big team fight win like that. And you should be looking at the map, looking at what is my teammate thinking right now? What are they trying to do? And if they're playing safe, then we're just chilling with them and waiting for R to be closer to back up and like everyone to be ready for the next fight.
So let me know what you think is kind of your objective in this team fight that is about to break out. What will you be looking for? In my head, I'm just thinking that we protect Cassiopeia and Vayne at all costs. So I will be standing on top of them and trying to deny Rengar Kha'Zix from them. I also have Locket available, so that's just another peeling tool that we have. What do you think?
Yeah, so my first thing I would look at is, do they have any way of flanking? Do we see everyone? I think we do right now.
Yeah, I think we have vision of everyone.
Yeah, all 5 people. But in these scenarios, like if someone comes up from over the wall and like dives on Vayne, that's the main way to lose this.
Yeah.
If everyone is in front, then we're just looking to like stand on top of the Vayne, basically, maybe slightly in front, like walk back and forth, use QW for a good W when it's necessary, then we use E and lock it at some point, and then lastly, hopefully, our R gets up before the fight is over. So we're not trying to play it too quickly, right, because we're still waiting for our R, but we're just letting Vayne do her thing, and we play reactively. That's all we need to do. We don't, like Petter mentioned earlier, like just E-flash onto them, because what happens then is Vayne gets tunnel visioned on the guy you're taunting and feels forced to follow up on you, and then she's actually gonna fuck up her own positioning that she was so focused on doing right before. So don't be too stressed. Like, things are working out, and you just need to make sure they keep working out.
And right here, Vayne gets hit by a bubble. And the most important thing that I can do is get the blade in a position that I can W Vayne. And here it is right on the edge, but it is close enough. So when Rengar is going to jump from this bush, I can press W, I can press Locket, I can E him, I can do all this stuff, and maybe even press ultimate on Vayne in order to keep her alive. And you can see that just the threat of me standing on top of Vayne makes the opponents kind of hesitate with their engage. Because if I'm not there, I'm pretty sure Rengar will go in and try and kill Vayne.
Yeah. And you don't have to panic either. Just press QW, and that's going to be enough to keep them alive from the initial engage, right? And then if the enemies commit harder, then we use E. And if the enemy keeps committing, then we use R. Don't spam everything instantly when it's not needed yet.
I think what we can take away from everything that we have talked about here is that patience is key in these fights. Yeah. You just have to kind of assess the situation and make these kind of, I don't know how to say it, maybe like good decisions, and think about each step. What do we want to do now? What do we want to do now? Just being mindful of what your goal is in this game will get you really far. Because defaulting to these autopilot playstyles where maybe you just think, okay, well, we will just E the first person that we see. Or we will just EQ and try to kill someone. Like, these are not the right things you should be doing as Shen. Because if you think about team fights as a just net total of damage dealt and damage taken, then how do we maximize the damage that we deal as Shen? No, it is not by auto-attacking the opponents. It is by keeping a carry alive. Because our carries have itemized for damage, right? We have itemized for support. We have itemized for tank. So if we can keep alive a carry by pressing QW on them, maybe ulting them, and then that carry does another 3000 damage in that fight, that is much more than Shen can ever hope to accomplish in a like late game team fight, because our champion does not scale well. We are not a late game champion, at least from a damage dealing perspective.
Yeah, like even if you get a full combo off and you're feeling good about things, like the Vayne is gonna do more damage in like 1 second than you are gonna be doing in 10 seconds, even in the best case scenarios. So yeah, and I will say, like, here I think it was probably a mistake to go side lane.
Yeah, we'll just back up a little bit so we see the context for it. So what we're talking about is in this position, when we have 4 players right here on the map, and our team is pinging to go mid lane. What is like my side lane pressure gonna accomplish? Sending help's thesis is probably not gonna accomplish anything, because I don't even have wave clear, right? I'm never gonna reach this tower, and the opponents have much kind of bigger priorities to deal with than them possibly losing like one wave in top lane. So
yeah, I mean, the best case scenario would be like you push up, they take mid, then they rotate top, and like things work out perfectly. But we shouldn't assume that everything works out perfectly. Like we're ahead, your teammate is gonna play very confidently, and if there's gonna be a fight, it's much better if you're there to like use your stuff, and then we are lost. Compared to like having to make the hard decision of when to R, and Vayne does end up dying actually. Like when we get there, we could have easily like saved this situation if we just had W, E, Locket, R, and she lives at that time, right?
Yeah, that's something like really important to realize, that you might think that okay, well, ultimate is a big shield, right? It's the most I can do for a teammate, but actually I think like W is more effective at like depends on the matchup obviously, like if they have some AP carry who you can't block damage from, but your W blocks more damage than your ultimate for sure, and your E can make the opponent completely deal no damage for 3 seconds basically, because you taunt them in the other direction and then they have to walk back on top of the carry. So your ultimate is not the most peeling that you can provide.
Yeah, and then being a frontliner, blocking skill shots as well. So those are the 3 main things, right? And they're gonna be so much more useful than just R. That doesn't mean there's never a situation where you would go up and push a wave. But usually if your team is deep on the map and looking to do stuff, then it's more often better in the late game to just be with them.
And here I kind of go against my own advice, because that E flash is unnecessary at this point. It's not going to accomplish much, and in this case it just meant that I lost HP and lost my flash, although we managed to end the game from it. But the better thing would have been to just stand on top of Cassio and be patient, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty over at this point, right?
Yeah.
But I do agree.
Yeah, so why don't you give kind of the context for this clip?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about why it's bad to E-flash forward in most situations, because we want to peel for our team to make sure that they deal the damage, and if we use everything, then our team might overcommit and put themselves out of position and might not end up good. But here, you can press play. We have an example where I do think it was fine to flash in. We'll see. It's a bit of a standoff. We already lost Lulu, but I see a moment where Zoe actually oversteps, and our team was already basically in range to keep dealing the damage, or to start dealing the damage right away is what I meant to say. Instead of them having to walk up and then start dealing the damage. So whenever an enemy oversteps like that and they're basically already in range for your team, that's the only time you can look to actually E-flash in.
Yeah, and I would like to mention that kind of TF's Twisted Fate's positioning is really important here. And when we see that Twisted Fate is locking in a gold card right here, he has gold card ready. This is our go signal, right? He's posturing forward. He wants to go in. He has a gold card ready. So that kind of makes the play possible, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, it was probably possible, maybe only with that Jane W as well, because of how far she actually walked. But it definitely made it even easier.
Yeah. Well, that was like a clear go sign, at least.
Yep, for sure.
And Twisted Fate plays it nicely here.
Yeah, he does.
2 months ago, I and Shending set out to create a Shen guide of unprecedented detail and quality. We wanted to create a video that would stand the test of time and help the next generation of Shen players. The Art of Shen was the result of that idea. I wrote my first Shen guide over 6 years ago, and if this turns out to be my last, I'll be satisfied and proud of how far we've come. I sincerely thank you for watching this far. If you want to learn more about the champion, I recommend you to check out Shending Help's content. Ever since our first collaboration in 2019, we have shared ideas and pushed the boundaries of our favorite champion. Together. Stand united.